Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Great Dane podcast. That's a working name. I don't have a name for the podcast yet, but I am honored to bring on my good friend Jonas. Jonas is a fellow content creator. He makes a lot of videos about history, mythology, philosophy, lifestyle, health, kind of everything in that sphere. And he is one of the few creators I've actually met in person through our online platforms, and I can vouch that he is a great person and he is a good friend beyond content creation. So, making this podcast, he's the first one I wanted to bring on. So, welcome, Jonas.
Thanks, Dane. It's a pleasure and a privilege because I know that one day when this podcast is topping the charts, people are going to come back and see who your first guest was. So this is very important.
Well, you'll be right up there with your own show. So, on to
Hopefully,
great things, right?
yes, absolutely.
And so the reason also I brought Jonas on is his content, as I mentioned, talks a lot about faith and mythology, history, and Jonas has a very interesting perspective on those topics, especially regarding his faith and his view of mythology and kind of history. Um, we're definitely at a point where there's a lot of discussion coming out of the secular worldview and into a more faith-based world again
Yeah,
on the pagan past of Greece and Rome and all of their accomplishments, but also the Christian faith. So,
yeah,
Jonas, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about your faith journey, anything you want to share regarding that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, initially, like from the beginning, I was raised in a Christian household. Both of my parents, my mom's from Brazil, so she was practicing. Well, I don't know about practicing, but she was a Catholic. And then my dad was a Protestant who was raised kind of like Irish Catholic. So I always grew up, knowing about God and the Bible stories. Would go to church every few Sundays. It wasn't like a super strict thing, and I think that that was one of the things that really helped in my journey was that it was never a it was never forced upon me, and so that allowed me this kind of freedom of exploration. And that's why when I was like a teenager and I started attending this church that had a skate park in it was like a teen center attached to a church that had a skate park in it. Me and my friends would go skate every single week, and we just had to sit through a quick church sermon and then an hour-long Bible study. And we were just there to skate. We were just sitting through the church service, but you end up picking up on these things, and they really started making me like question everything that I knew. Um, One thing is actually funny. I was talking to my girlfriend last night about this. Is that when I was in my sixth grade world history class, the first time that we came to the subject of Jesus of Nazareth, it kind of shocked me. I was like, wait, like historically, like Jesus was real? And then that was kind of one of the first sparks for me because it's like I'd heard all these stories growing up, but you don't think much of it. Once I realized he was a real person, I think I became slightly more interested. And then once I started learning all the stories and the meanings behind them, all that, like it all started to kind of resonate. And then I would say when I was about 19, that's when I started reading the Bible for myself. And then that was the beginning of my journey. But I was always very interested in history and mythology. And then once I got into philosophy around the same time, like 19 years old, that's when things just really started exploding for me. And I had realized I had found like my true passion in life was just like unlocking all of these secrets that seem to be intertwined with one another.
It's quite the journey. So, you've got your faith on one hand and
Hmm.
your appreciation for myth and history, as you said, on the other.
Yeah.
How, how does that kind of interplay? Because in the online sphere, there is a lot of clashing
Dogma.
between, yeah, dogma clashing between, people who are Christian and people who are embracing paganism again and that more kind of ancient worldview. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of misunderstanding, a lot of mudslinging, I think.
I
But
mean,
it's hard
yeah.
to reconcile, and the West has been doing it since Christianity began
Yeah.
through the Middle Age. It's been a long tradition of putting these two together. So how do you do it personally?
I mean, this might kind of throw us into the weeds a little bit right away, but I personally believe that, like, I've talked previously about how you should take yourself seriously, but life less seriously. And I think that that's a better way to sort of just approach this existence. And I think that when it comes to faith, mythology, and history, and all of these potentially clashing worldviews, I think that we need to be taking them a little bit more lightly and also not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think that, especially, like, let's start with, say, Europe's pagan past. You know, my ancestors were pagan before they were Christian. I think that there is an important sort of cultural, maybe heritage aspect to that. Mythology is literally the study of stories that identify a culture or a people. Christianity has its own mythology. There's a Christian mythology and a Christian narrative and a Christian history. There's a pagan mythology, pagan narrative, pagan history. And I don't think that it's right for us to just say, like, one is completely correct and one is completely incorrect. Like, I think that there is greater truth to varying things. Like, I think that Jesus Christ, in my opinion, is the ultimate truth. But Jesus wasn't here until, 0 AD. So are we supposed to say that everything that occurred before Jesus was entirely inherently false? I think that that's, again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And if we wanted to, like, get more into the weeds, are you familiar with the Chronicles of Narnia?
I am, yes.
There is a scene, or there is a chapter in the book, depending on book or movie, where Aslan is talking to one of the, like, rebel soldiers who is supposed to represent, like, the pagans of the past. And he's talking about how he's asking him for forgiveness. He's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that you were the true king, the true, God, so to speak. And he says, no worries. Every time that you prayed to whatever the pagan god's name was, in earnest, I heard your prayers. And I think that there is something to that. I think that there is something to the fact that, if we aim in the right direction, I think God always understands the intentions of our hearts. And that's why I think it's way, way broader of a problem than just, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? That's your ticket into heaven. Like, there's way too many sort of, I guess, exceptions to the rule that are already made by the church, and it's a part of their dogma. So I don't see why there can't be other exceptions in different areas that we're not willing to accept, that are also, like, a symbol of salvation in some sense.
Makes a lot of sense, and it kind of brings up your example with the Chronicles of Narnia. It kind of brings up two tangents for me.
Yeah.
First, C.S. Lewis being a good friend of Tolkien, and when you look at Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion, he was a devout Catholic, and his story is ultimately a Catholic story, but it was also deeply influenced by specifically Anglo-Saxon mythology and those pagan stories and pieces of lore as well. And it is kind of an interesting, with him and Lewis, kind of an interesting synergy between their faith, which they ultimately see as the truth, but they weren't afraid to be influenced by the past, their nation's past, their people's past, in terms of bringing these ideas of fairies and elves and gods and everything. So I think that's an interesting way to view it, and a lot of people, I feel like, today can't do that. They have to be in one camp or the other. They can't.
It's because it's too difficult. I feel like too many people are afraid of trying to juggle multiple things. For them, I think it's a lot easier to just pick a worldview, run with it. Nobody can take this away from me. I have a buddy of mine who's always talking about firmly held loose beliefs versus loosely held firm beliefs. And I think that truly a lot of people have firmly held loose beliefs that they don't really understand why they believe something, but please don't take this away from me. It's going to shatter my world if you do. Whereas I don't want to like, I'm not trying to like gas myself up, but like I am a person who is capable of like, if you challenge my beliefs in any way, I'm going to hear you out. I want to know what you have to say. Ultimately, I want the truth, you know? And like my belief in Christianity as the viable way forward for me is ultimately it comes down to one, my understanding of the teachings of Jesus, and two, my personal experiences that I have had encountering Jesus. You know, like if if Odin were the god who presented himself to me, and like I had a personal experiences, maybe I'd be a Norse pagan, but that's not what happened. And that's not the direction that I went. And so that's why I simply don't believe in it. But I don't think that there's no truth to the stories. I don't think that there's no truth to the mythologies. Mythologies are created for a reason. One of the things that like I don't know if this is necessarily like part of the Hegelian dialectic, but this idea of there's an ultimate truth, which is like God, and then the only way to arrive there is to have a sort of collective, objective understanding of truth. And the only way that we have a collective understanding is by every single person having their own subjective truth. You total all those up, and then you have an objective truth, and then at the top of that is like the ultimate capital T truth. And I think that all of our personal experiences are valid. I think that we all have them for different reasons. God reveals himself to people in different ways. And I think it's so that we can have a more comprehensive understanding of things. Like, people criticize the fact that Protestantism is a derivation of the true faith of Orthodoxy or Catholicism, whatever you believe the original church was. But I've even heard Orthodox people argue that, well, Protestantism was kind of necessary for the time because Catholicism and Orthodoxy was inaccessible to a lot of people. It's not relatable. It's not going to bring them to God. So maybe God gave us Protestantism, which is potentially a watered down version of Christianity, for a good reason, for an entry point for a lot of people. And I think that that happens everywhere, not just in the church.
Right. It's a good perspective, and it's kind of funny because you mentioned personal experience in Odin, for example.
Yeah.
And earlier when you were talking about the scene from Narnia when Aslan says to the soldier, "I heard your prayers in earnest," or
Hmm. Yeah.
however it was phrased. And I can't help but see, and you being into Indo-European history, the old faith, the Sky Father.
Yeah. Dies Pater. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't help but see some similarity there with Christian
100%.
God. It's a father in the sky.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that religion gave birth to Greek paganism and
All of them.
all the forms of paganism through Europe
Yeah.
and even a little bit eastward as well. Um, but there's more similarity there than I think people tend to admit or see because they have their preconceived notions of if you're a Christian, anything outside of the faith is demonic, it's of the
Yeah.
devil. And if
Yes.
you're not a Christian, then Christian, some foreign desert cult that's taken over. They don't look for maybe
Yeah.
some shared truths and experience.
Exactly. And I think the problem is exactly like you said, when people hear of anything else that does not match what they've understood through scripture, they think it's of the devil. And that's scary. And the entire point is that if you are rooted in fear, if your faith, if your belief is rooted in fear, I don't think that that's a very firm faith. I think that your faith should be based on true belief. I don't think that you should be fear mongered into believing what you believe. And I really think that that's one of the places where Christianity has the opportunity to shine, but I personally just like have not really seen that. One thing that I will say is that I became very fascinated with Orthodox Christianity within the last couple of years, just because it seems to me a little bit less fear mongery than all of the other denominations of churches that I've explored. Most of the other church I've been to some churches that all they talk about is Revelation and the end of the world and how the end is near and you must repent before that happens. And there's a lot of other churches that are just really focused on repenting of your sins and trying to not live a sinful life and this and that. Orthodoxy is almost like a philosophical faith. They are really concerned. Their ultimate goal is theosis, which is like becoming like God in a way that you sort of are in divine like unity with God. And I think that's the ultimate purpose. I think it's about achieving, not necessarily. See, that's the thing is I'm worried of saying godhood, and then they're like, oh, you're heretic. That's not what it is. That's like becoming God. But it's something like that, you know? It's becoming Christ-like. It's becoming God-like. And Orthodoxy is very concerned with this. They have a bunch of one of the things that I really like about Orthodoxy as well is that they believe that God is so omnipresent and eternal that it's easier to define God by what he is not than what he is. And I remember when I heard that, like my student, like philosophy student brain was just like, oh my God, I love that, you know? And so I've been very fascinated with that. It's definitely more to explore, but I think that's the right direction.
Couple of things. One, just have to say, I love that concept of, can you say it again, the loose ideas held
Oh,
firmly?
firmly held loose belief versus a loosely held firm belief.
I love that phrase. It's
Yeah,
actually
it's great.
a script I've been working on is that idea of people who have these beliefs they hold so tightly they
Hmm.
can't listen to anything else, but they don't actually know what they believe very well. They're not open-minded and they're scared of that versus people who are very much rooted in their beliefs but aren't
Yeah,
afraid to have them challenged or to learn about other perspectives.
100%.
Um, so I love that phrase, first of all, and it sounds like you've kind of applied that exploring another branch of Christianity that
Yeah,
many people, many Christians aren't familiar with. And I'll be
yeah.
honest, I know very little about Orthodoxy as a faith. I know a little bit
Hmm.
more historically about it as an institution,
That's par for the course
splitting
here in
from
America.
Catholicism and everything. But
Yeah,
you don't get to see if you're not actively looking how these people actually practice their faith and
right.
the various nuances of what they believe in.
Hmm. Yeah, no, and it's funny too because like going into philosophy, like going to UCLA to study philosophy for me was similar because there was this one so that church that had a skate park in it, I had stopped attending when I was like, when I graduated high school because it's like only for high school students. And then a couple of years later, I found myself back there because I was on a walk at the beach and I ran into the old youth pastor from there. And we were just like catching up, talking about how like, oh, I started reading the Bible finally, and like I am a Christian and this and that. And he was super excited, and he invited me to come like to one of the youth group nights and like talk to the kids about like my faith journey, just like sit in the Bible study and stuff. Long story short, was telling him about how I was going to go to school for philosophy, and then he was kind of warning me like, oh, be careful, because like they're going to challenge you here and challenge. And I was like, that's the point. I want to be challenged. I am not here to, you know, uh, go and preach on the street corner and tell everybody to repent. One, I don't think that that's a very viable way of saving souls. And two, like, what good does that do for me if I am unable to hear other people, you know? And like, you come across these people all the time. It doesn't have to be preachers standing on street corners. It's just like the everyday person when you ask them, like, hey, what do you think about this? And they're like, I don't know, man. And it's like, come on, like, share with me. Let's risk being incorrect. Let's risk embarrassing ourselves. Let's risk shaking our worldview a little bit. And I think people are just very unwilling to do that. And people are also unwilling to admit that they're unwilling to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, it's broader than even faith, just everything.
Everything.
Yeah, people are not willing to entertain other perspectives or risk their own perspective.
Yeah.
They want to feel safe in their echo chambers or camps or not state anything concrete at all. And I think
Yeah.
there's a difference between in like an I don't know, as you said, as like a deflection. It's like
Hmm.
I don't want to share what I really think because I'm not sure if it's right or if how people are going to perceive it versus
Yes.
an admission of I don't know, as in
Yeah.
I need to learn more.
Need to learn more. Yeah.
I genuinely don't know, so I'm open
Educate
to
me.
exploration.
Yeah.
There's
Exactly.
two different kinds of I don't knows, I guess.
Totally.
You can use it as a shield, or you can use it as a as a motivation to learn more. And
You also will sometimes come across the I don't care. And that
yeah,
one's a little bit more rare, but that still happens. Like I remember, I'd be at work or whatever, and like a topic would come up. I'd be like, "What do you think?" And they're like, "I don't know. I don't even care." And I'm like, "You don't even have an opinion?" They're like, "What good does it do me?" And I'm like, "Suit yourself. I am obsessed. I can't sleep at night because of these things."
yeah, it's funny. There's people who don't care, again, as a deflection,
Yeah.
or genuinely they're just not there. But there's also people who care in a very obsessive way, and they latch on to smaller things to care about,
Hmm.
um, more inconsequential. I see that. I mean, you
Yeah.
see this a lot with like world events. There's people who don't care at all, who
Hmm.
are like, shut off the news. I don't give a shit. And
Yeah.
then there's people who every headline,
Matters.
it's
Life or
like,
death.
yeah, it's like, and if you don't share the same view as they do, it's
Yeah.
um,
It's
you
definitely
got to
more
find a balance
prevalent.
of
Yeah.
caring and knowing about the world, but also being grounded in your reality, because it's so easy to get caught up in these
Yeah.
firestorms with the internet.
Well, see, I think that that's one of the greatest takeaways that I've ever gotten from Yukio Mishima, is one of my favorite philosophers. He talks a lot about how, he was very in his head. He was a philosophy student, he's an artist, he's a writer, playwright. And all of his knowledge and understanding of the world was like head knowledge, but he had no like existence in the physical. And long story short, it gets into bodybuilding and gets into like martial arts and all these things. And he talks about how that changed his understanding of the entire world, because I think a lot of people like are attacking the world from a place of like they don't have their feet on the ground ever. And so everything is just, when you're constantly like head in the clouds, it's very scary because you don't know where you're going. There's no boundaries. It's very chaotic. And those are the kind of people who are like glued to the news, but they don't have anything like really meaningful or purposeful in their own life, or they don't have a training routine that grounds them in their body, or a meditation practice that grounds them in their spirit, etc., etc., that they are swayed and they are pulled and pushed in different directions by whatever's going on around them. That's kind of like, I made that stupid video about the metaphysics of silly goosing, and it's literally the entire point is that if you take yourself seriously, you're like, I'm going to build a strong, capable body. I am going to build a strong relationship with God and have a good spiritual life. And I'm going to take care of my mental health, eat right, do all these things for myself. That way I know I'm good. I am confident in my abilities as a human being. Now the world's a little less scary. Now you can challenge me a little bit more about worldviews. Now you can challenge me a little bit more about morality. You can, like, I am capable of addressing these things better because I am assured of myself as a person. I think a lot of people don't have that.
It's funny. I get asked pretty frequently, you know, what I think the most important books are, what I think the most important movies are, all these things, and it's obviously I make a lot of content about film and
Hmm.
philosophy and all that stuff, but I think way more than anything you can read or watch is experience. Like you said, I love Mishima, by the way. I'll get into
Yeah,
him in a sec.
totally.
Um, but a lot of what I do is backed by my experience in combat sports and
Yeah.
wrestling, fraternity, various jobs I've had, and places I've
Yes.
traveled. And I think having those experiences in living life is a lot more important to who you are than anything you read. And I
Yeah.
think once you have that experience and ground yourself, it makes films and books and everything so much more valuable because you have real sort of experience to interpret it with and
Hmm.
see how it kind of plays out in real life.
Yeah.
A guy who reads every philosophy book in the world but never leaves the house, I mean, what good has all that knowledge
Really done for
gotten him?
you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah, that's the entire purpose, is like, knowledge comes from a book, but wisdom comes from knowledge plus experience. or wisdom. Yeah, wisdom is like the, you have an experience, you gain knowledge from it. What did you take away from it? If you took something away from it, you are now wiser. But if you didn't take anything away, you're not wiser, but you still had the experience. If you can combine the two, like that's what makes you a full human being. And that's why, like, Plato talks about how to build the perfect citizen, like a Nietzschean Übermensch, you need to have both the gymnastic training of the body and the artistic training of the mind. Because if you only have one or the other, you're just an incomplete human. And there's just a lot of incomplete humans walking around nowadays.
And it's so easy in the modern age now with internet technology to be constantly in a virtual
Yeah.
fake world. You never,
Doing neither. You're not building the body or the mind.
yeah, you can, everything is so surrogate. It
Hmm.
can be if you have to try to actually put yourself in real experiences. And I think that's why
Yes,
bodybuilding is such an accessible starting point. I think some people get
totally.
obsessed with it to the point of like it's not the be all and end all unless you're competing or something.
Right,
But
and that's okay because maybe that's your purpose in life. But
right.
yeah,
But as a starting, just that little bit of self discipline, a
yeah,
routine, and seeing improvement in your body. It's not just, oh, there's that
yes,
terrible meme that's like every muscle on a bodybuilder is a book you didn't read. And it's like,
yeah.
it's
I
not.
mean,
Building
yeah,
muscle is a teaching spiritual experience in and of itself. And also, it's not like you can't read books either. The
yeah,
gym takes an hour, hour and a half, whatever. Um, Reading, you can be both. And by doing both, you're going to be a greater, more rounded individual than you would be
yeah.
pursuing either on its own.
And I'd argue that it makes you better at both. Because one of he's a lesser known philosopher, Henry Rollins, is the lead singer of a band, Black Flag, and various others. But I read his book called The Iron, where he talked about how he got into lifting weights and like building his physique. And it was honestly probably one of the most enlightening philosophy books I've ever read because one of the points he makes in there, for example, is like the iron never lies. 45 pounds is always 45 pounds. You can ground yourself in that. You can you can like learn how you are overcoming the weight of 45 pounds. It used to feel heavy, now it feels light. It's unchanging, it's always there. It's sort of like he gets really metaphysical about like his training and what it's done for him. And I think that it's one of those things where, like I said, the physical grounds you. So now you have a firm starting place, like you said, for whatever else you need to tackle in life. Because it's like if you are capable of going into the gym and taking yourself from physique A to physique B, or if you don't care about physique, you only care about strength, from bench press number A to bench press number B, you show yourself like, oh, with time and dedication, I am capable of change. I am capable of evolution. And I think that the same goes for mental and spiritual practices. When you start reading philosophy, you're like, I am capable of learning, synergizing all of these things, and developing a greater worldview. Or I am capable of devoting time to prayer and meditation with God and becoming a more spiritually enlightened person through repetition. Like it just teaches you that's like you have control in this life. You have creative expression. All you have to do is act on it. And a lot of people, I think, because they're outside of their body, they don't realize how easily they can change the world around them because they've never changed anything about themselves.
Exactly. I'll take it to wrestling a little bit. And it
Please.
shows that knowledge in and of itself isn't necessary. People say knowledge is power, and it is, but
Hmm.
it's transferring knowledge
Yes.
into action. With
Yes.
wrestling, you learn a move, right? Like a
Hmm.
takedown, a double leg. You see it, you do it. Okay, it's learned, but you have
Hmm.
to do it every single day. Drill it hundreds,
Yeah.
thousands of times for it to actually be usable in a
Yep.
match or in a self-defense situation. Like
You can see a
you,
move 100 times. The first time you try it, it's like you're a baby deer. You're
yep.
so awkward. You don't know how to. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it just shows you there's more than just learning something. Grounding it in experience and really seeing how it's cultivated, I think, is
Hmm.
so important. And it, like you said, it goes beyond physical pursuits. But physical
Hmm.
pursuits are such an easy way of showing you that process.
Yes,
Um,
because it's something that begins as physical and ends as physical. It's like a perfect representation, manifestation of what's going on. And then once you transfer that, because I mean, I don't know if it was, I can't remember if it was Nietzsche or some philosopher said, like, we are spiritual beings living in a, probably wasn't Nietzsche. We are spiritual beings living in a physical world. We must interact with the world physically, and that means when you read your philosophy books and you learn things, you must now apply that in the real world, or else your knowledge is literally for nothing if it just stays in your head.
yeah, it's such an easy thing now to, and it gets beyond like philosophy when you think about like ideology too and all these things.
Yeah.
It's so easy to support various causes and have the right opinions, but
Yes.
what are you actually doing though,
Yeah.
other than preaching or saying you agree with X and disagree with Y?
Yeah.
What good is that doing you, other
Is it
people, or
changing the
your
world at
cause?
all?
It's
Yeah, are you building anything? Are you creating anything? Like, has anything new or valuable come into the world by you simply standing behind a cause, like where there are actual people trying to make waves, where there's people trying to make a difference, where there's people trying to educate and create and build, like, and I'm not saying that every single person needs to be a I don't know, a philanthropist of some sort, but it's like
right. But you
do
meet these
something.
people who have a million pet causes or whatever, but
Hmm.
then you look at their life and it's like they don't treat their friends or family well. They're not there for the people in their immediate community. They're struggling in work and health, like their own personal, they're neglecting themselves. And
Yeah,
it's like I think that is way closer to the kind of person they are than these causes that they've adopted.
yeah,
Um, it just goes to show that action is so important.
absolutely. One of the best, I actually super very synchronistic moment. I was at the shooting range earlier today, and as I was leaving, a guy recognized me. He was like, "Oh, Jonas." I was like, "Yo, what's up?" And then he was like, "Dude, we were in a philosophy class together at UCLA." And I was like, "Oh, no way." Have you been? We were catching up, and then I asked him. I was like, "By the way, what class was that?" I'm trying to remember. And it was this class. It was an existentialism class on Hannah Arendt and her book, The Human Condition. And it's one of my favorite philosophy books to this day. It's very long story short, this idea that life can be divided up into three sort of practices. There's labor, work, and action. And labor is the stuff that you do to get you through the day to day. It's growing your food if you're a farmer, or just like, putting clothes on your back, like the laborious tasks, the things that you need to do every single day to survive. Your work is what you do to build or create, to sort of like leave a lasting impression. Maybe you're a painter and you make paintings. Maybe you're a musician and you make music, or you're a builder and you literally build houses. But the action is the sort of sharing of ideas with others and bringing them up spiritually, philosophically, and just like growing as a person in your soul by interacting with other people. And the only way that you can ever participate in action is with others. You can do work by yourself, you can do labor by yourself, but you cannot take action on your own, because you live in a world with others and you must interact with them. And I think that, like, we were kind of alluding to, like, a lot of people, they don't treat their friends or family well, they don't participate in the community. And I think that when you alienate yourself from the outside world so much that your only interaction is like scrolling on TikTok or something, you're going to alienate yourself as well, because you require that outside interaction in order for the growth of the soul.
That is why one of my biggest pet peeves with kind of the online self-improvement sphere or what have you is
Very
this,
lone wolfish.
yeah, this idea of
Yeah.
like the sigma male lone wolf who doesn't need any friends and he just grinds and goes monk mode, and it's like that's not humans. Okay, there are some people who are probably wired to be more alone, but humans
Sure.
generally are social creatures, and
Hmm.
anything that's been achieved from survival to just or anything was done through groups. Even great,
Yeah.
Napoleon, excellent general, but he had a staff of officers and advisors and everything.
Even the lone wolf hero in every movie that you will ever watch either has like a beautiful female sidekick or a beautiful male sidekick if it's a woman, and or a friend who is like a sort of partner in crime, or the Knights of the Round Table. Like you always have your people, and that's the only way that you can truly be the hero. You know, like you don't become the hero by slaying demons in your own mind. Like you become a hero by going out and slaying dragons in the real world. And there's other
Exactly.
people there. There's other knights trying to also slay the dragon.
And to bring it back, to wrestling again, people always say it's an combat sports are an individual sport,
Mm,
but it is individual in the sense when you step on the mat and it's you versus the other guy.
yep.
Yeah, it is individual. It's not like your teammate can run in and tag in.
not
But
not in not in not in real
yeah,
wrestling.
yeah, WWE different story. Um,
Yeah.
but the team is so important to build your skills and to build each other's skills, and that team bonding. Like you think about the wins and losses, but you also
Yeah.
remember the bus rides with your friends and
Totally.
training together, and that just that group bonding. And it's like
Yeah.
there's no way anybody could achieve the success even in an individual sport
Yeah.
without support.
Absolutely.
Bodybuilders too, they have their staff of coaches and training partners, and it's
Yep.
it's like you can always go further with like-minded people,
With the
always,
right
no matter
team.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
um, Granted, you've got to have caliber people in your life, because bad people in your life, lazy people,
They will bring you down.
they can bring you down, of course. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so you've got to have that discernment for sure.
But see, I think that that's the important thing about going out into the world and truly seeing what's out there, what's meant for you, because like our hypothetical person who has alienated the world and then therefore themselves, maybe they had horrible parents growing up. Maybe they came from a family environment where they were just like, fuck people, fuck human beings. Humans are the worst, and they were severely wronged. And like, I think that nurture and nature are obviously like very important, and I think that you can't always judge a person if you don't know their history. Like I think that there are a lot of people who truly believe humans are just inherently terrible and evil because that's all they knew for the first 12 years of their life, 18 years of their life, and then they get out into the world and they just distrust everybody. It's very important for people who want to bring others up to sort of like take part in that. Like I think that everybody who has a mission in life and like wants to build or create something, I think part of that mission should also be including others who need it, creating communities for those people. I think that that's one of the coolest things that I've experienced with like getting to create content online, is not only do I get to share my creations with people, but they get to also share their stories with me. And like we can build and grow each other from there. I had one kid, honestly, probably like the one of the coolest things that's happened to me online. He reached out to me several months ago. I want to say back in like January. I'd only been posting on TikTok for like 3 or 4 months consistently. And he was like, "Yo, dude, love your content. Like, I was hoping I could get some advice. I kind of dropped out of school. My parents don't give a fuck if I go. And I just like don't really care. Like I have interests in things, but I just don't feel the need to go to school and I just want to do this and that, and like, but I feel lost. What do I do? And I just kind of like gave him some advice because I was like, I would love to be able to help another person. I gave him my own personal advice, what I thought that he should do, and like why I think, school will benefit his life and at least finish high school because, yada, yada, yada. Months later, he messaged me back and told me I started going to school again. I've really been like appreciating it and like my life's been getting better. Also, my relationship with my dad is getting a little bit better too because like he's, proud of me and yada yada. And I was just like the feeling of like joy and like excitement and just euphoria that I felt feeling like I got to be a part of somebody else's growth journey was like there's no better feeling in the world. So like I think that once people recognize how good it feels to help others, one, they'll be more willing to reach out for help themselves. That's something that I've been trying to work on myself. And two, they will realize that like to quote Jesus Christ, that we should love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Imagine the advice that you would want to receive and give that to other people and like truly like try and help them. I think that that's maybe the entire meaning of life.
First of all, it's an awesome story, and it shows the power of content creation
Totally.
in a different sense than people understand the word
Yeah.
content creator. You think of influencers, all that, but
Yeah,
you
exactly.
can make tangible, real benefits on people's lives, which is awesome.
Hmm.
And this kind of, if you take it a little bit further, I was reminded back to mythology and religion
Hmm.
of there's a trope of the hero going through the underworld,
Yeah.
or going into dark places, or Jesus even going amongst sinners.
Yeah.
Um,
Or literally dying and harrowing hell and coming back. Yeah,
yeah,
there's always an
yeah,
underworld story.
yeah. There's always a hero going in to the dark pit of evil, whatever that may be
Yeah.
in the
The
story,
absolute worst, most dangerous place.
and seeing it, but not being corrupted by it,
Yes.
defeating it, overcoming it.
Hmm.
And I think you can kind of do that with life experience as well when you
Totally.
meet people out in the world and you have experiences maybe in some seedy places, or you kind of see an unsavory side of people out in the world. But that's not necessarily something to avoid if you're
No.
strong in your beliefs and who you are. I think it
Hmm.
actually can be necessary to see how other people live and how some very maybe not so good people places are, and
Yeah.
experiencing that firsthand I think is an important part of a hero's journey. no matter
Yes.
no matter what, you can't hide in the Shire for your
No.
whole life. That's
Yeah.
King of the Lord of the Rings. You gotta see evil firsthand to overcome evil.
Yeah, and that's the beginning of the hero's journey always begins with a period of peace and then the call to adventure. Like there's always something beckoning you to go forward and finally do that thing, whether it's literally the voice of God or if it's just somebody being like, "Oh, did you want to go on this trip with me? Like I've got an extra ticket or a job offer or something." You literally never know. I mean, like, I think one of the greatest journeys I ever took in my life, I still like romanticize it all the time, was when I was 18 years old. I wanted to become a firefighter because when I had graduated high school, I had like a 2.4 GPA. I didn't even take the SAT or ACT or anything. Like the college was not even in the cards. I got a job doing construction, just like, you know, just doing general labor because I was like, this is probably what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But I wanted to make more money and make something like just kind of have more meaning. And so I was talking to my mom's boyfriend at the time, and then he was like, "Yeah, I think you should be a firefighter." And my girlfriend even said the same thing, and I was like, "Yeah, I should try that." It's like that you don't need a degree for that. Got into firefighting, went to EMT school, got my EMT license, became an EMT for 6 months. I started applying everywhere for fire positions, and I got accepted to this wildland fire department up in Washington State. And I was just like, I was so excited. I said yes immediately, moved up there. I was 19 years old. and my girlfriend moved in with me, and it was my first time living on my own, and it was my first time having like a real big boy job, and it was my first time like doing all these things. And it's like life also, like, not to dampen the story, but like my dad had passed away 4 months before, just like completely broke my world apart. And it was like I literally came from this place where I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I hate my life. Why didn't I try harder in school? I just lost my father, my best friend. Like this tormenting me every single day. And then I finally get this opportunity. Hey, come fight wildfires in Washington. And it'll be scary, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be dangerous. But like, come do this, you know? And I literally got the call from the guy, but I also felt that call in my heart where I was like, I need to go do this, you know? And I didn't even want to be a wildland firefighter. Like, I wanted to be the cool guys riding around the trucks in the city, you know, putting out the small fires, and not small fires, but like, you know, putting out fires and like rescuing cats and stuff. I didn't want to fight wildfires, but I did it anyways, and I fucking hated it. It was the hardest work ever, and it was so scary, and I thought I was going to die sometimes, but it was the greatest soul building that I ever did in my life, and I came away from it 6 months later an entirely different person. Like, I am so grateful for that experience, and I will be for the rest of my life. And I think that a lot of people just need to be willing to, when that sort of terrifying call from God or the fire management officer in Washington calls you, like, you just have to say yes. You need to go do that thing that you don't want to do. You know, as badly as I wanted to be a firefighter, I did not want to move away from home to a place that I'd never been before and fight wildfires for fucking $17.50 an hour. I did not want to do that, but I knew that I needed to for the lore. And I think that like a lot of people could really benefit from doing more of that in their lives.
It's funny, talk about going through the underworld through hell. Well, you went
Yeah.
through fire.
Yeah, yeah, right,
literal,
exactly.
literal flame.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think you're right. That's the kind of experience. Obviously, it's not something you're doing anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but would you say it, and I think you did kind of say it was
Mm-hmm.
super important for you to
Oh,
have and shaped who you are right now.
I
Um,
don't even know who I would be if I didn't go do that, because it was one of those things where like I came home, and while I was there, like, you know, I started eating healthier, and I was training harder, and like I was just taking myself more seriously. Because I think before that, I just didn't really take myself that seriously. Like, I wanted to. I wanted something greater for myself. I had big dreams and big visions for what I wanted my life to be, but it was like blurry. Like, I didn't really know what it looked like. It was just a feeling in my heart, and I was very grateful. My girlfriend that I'm still with today, like, she was somebody who believed in me really, really hard. And like, you know, I had a very supportive family. My mom, her boyfriend, my younger brother, like, all very supportive. So was my dad. So I had a really good like system of people encouraging me to go out and do those things. It was really just, it took me taking the risk of completely failing, falling on my face. Because like, what if I go there? I'm literally so terrified of doing this or so bad at it, my body can't handle it, whatever, that I end up quitting and I fail. But it's like, if you never take that risk and put yourself in front of an obstacle that you may fail in front of, like, you won't grow. You know, it all ties back to, like we said, the gym. Like, you have to fucking put two plates on the bar and actually let it pin you on the bench before you can go, you know what? Like, I tried at least, and I'm gonna get it next time. You know, it's people are too afraid to fail. They think that they can avoid it.
it's funny, talking about physical discipline and failing. So after my wrestling season, I was convinced I never wanted to do anything physical again. I was like, I'd put my time in martial arts and competing
Especially wrestling and having to
yeah,
cut weight and stuff. God,
for, you know, better part of my life, 10 years. And I was
wow.
like, I was at the point, and I didn't really know what I wanted in life, but I
Hmm.
thought pleasure, partying, that's all I wanted coming out of high school. I
Of course, you were
like to
so
drink,
disciplined with wrestling.
and
You wanted to. Yeah.
I was like, I put my time in discipline. I'm over.
Yeah.
I just want to joy. I thought myself a hedonist, and like a like I would
Hmm.
literally say that. Um, obviously it didn't work out. And what I realized when I came home from college my freshman year, and Christmas Eve day, my dad took me to the Manitou Springs Incline. It's like a big hike with
Oh
railroad
well.
ties, and I my
Hmm.
competition team in jiu-jitsu did it when I was like 12 years old. So I was like, it's not going to be that difficult. My dad's a pretty active guy.
That's cool.
Um, and I'm 18 years old in the prime of my life, right?
Yeah.
And halfway up, he's like 20 road ties ahead of me, and I'm
Uh-huh.
puking Gatorade all over the thing.
Uh-huh.
And he's in his late 40s, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
He's
that's when
schooling
I
you.
kind
Yeah.
of realized. I was like, okay, I went from a pretty good competitor, pretty physically fit, to now I'm throwing up like on something I did when I was 12. And that
Yeah.
kind of awakened, like, it brought all those lessons back where it's like, okay, maybe all that discipline and everything, it wasn't just for the sport.
Yeah. It's for life.
It's for life. And that was really the genesis of me getting back into physical discipline and philosophy, because
Yeah.
that point I found that the pursuit of pleasure was hollow. Um,
It doesn't take long. It's
yeah, and
yeah.
and I'm not
If
saying,
you're a very conscientious person, it doesn't take long. Some people it takes a long time.
of course, I'm not saying to never have fun or anything,
Totally.
but there is more to life, no matter what. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that experience, failing is so important. The possibility of failure, or even failure itself, and most
Yes.
people are afraid of failing, of putting themselves out there. Um, it's
Yeah.
easier to just be safe.
I think especially because nowadays there's just a lot of opportunities to resist failure. Like, we no longer have to grow our own food. We don't have to even try. We no longer have to hunt our own food. We don't even have to try. We no longer have to build our own shelters. We don't have to make our own clothes. We don't have to there's a lot of things that we just don't have to do for ourselves anymore just to survive. And there's also so many. I mean, I'm not trying to crap on anybody's job. I would never do that. But there's a lot of jobs that you can get where you can kind of just skate by and you can make enough money, and like you don't have to ever actually put yourself on the chopping block, or like put yourself in the arena. And you can be safe. And there's just so much opportunity for safety and comfort. And I truly think that comfort is like the greatest killer of the human spirit. Um, I think that every time that I've ever had an experience with the divine was when I was in a very uncomfortable place. Was a time where like I was in a very dark place, and I just think that it's a common trope that you pray and you petition to God when your life is in shambles, but then when things are pretty good, you kind of forget to pray. And I think it goes even deeper than that. I think it's that when things are dark and when you're lonely and it's very quiet, that's like when you can hear God's voice better. That's when you can hear the call to change directions in your life better. And it's important for us to go through those seasons. I think that people, along with not wanting to risk the embarrassment of failure, they also sort of distract themselves from those maybe times in their life where they would encounter something that would cause great change.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's never been easier. And I think that's when people talk about the modern world being so difficult. It's actually too easy.
It's too
It's
easy.
it's too
Exactly.
easy to just exist and to live. You can
Mm-hmm.
the bare functions of survival, even to a degree, like companionship, talking about, pornography. It's
Oh yeah.
so easy to get your brain's reward systems fired.
Yep.
There's no there's very little incentive to do anything beyond
Yeah.
the bare minimum. And
I
a
mean,
few
if you
hundred
think
years
about it,
ago,
yeah.
you can't you're not lasting very long
No,
doing
it didn't
that.
exist at all. And,
Yeah,
and that's the thing is like our brains, because we have because you have access to the most delicious food you have ever tasted in your life whenever you want it at the grocery store. The amount of food that you want. You have a literal harem of women online that you can watch, and with pornography. There is endless entertainment on television. You live like the greatest king that ever existed, with all of the pleasures and luxuries that the modern world offers even the most basic person. Like, homeless people have internet access, and food stamps. Like, you can live like a king for nothing today. And that comfort absolutely zaps your spirit. And like, there's times in my life where I feel like I was more mentally fortuitous then than I am now, because like maybe my life's been a little bit too comfortable and I need to go out and actually like challenge myself a little bit more, And I try and implement it in like little small doses. Like, I like to surf. Maybe if the waves are a little bigger than I'm comfortable with, I'm just gonna go anyways, just for the fucking testosterone boost, Like, just to challenge myself a little bit. I have whatever it might be, like, just like do those little things that are gonna push you outside of your comfort zone, because comfort will kill you.
Funny, yesterday, my hike that went longer than expected and
Oh
delayed
yeah.
this episode. It is funny though. It was like I planned on being out, a couple hours, whatever, and I was gonna do this podcast standing up with my desk, but I'm sitting. My legs
You're
are
tired.
torn up. It was about
Yeah.
10 and a half miles round trip.
And let it be known that Dane hit legs the day before.
uh, um, like 3,000 feet of elevation. Did it in like 5.5 hours, with stops and all that. Um, that is a good physical test, and it's like that's the kind of thing I need to be doing more, as long as it
Yeah.
doesn't interfere with scheduled events. but
Shit.
but
But
yeah,
yeah.
you've gotta. It's easy to become complacent, and when talking about Mishima,
Hmm.
that I just watched. Well, not just. It was a couple months ago now, and I still
Oh,
haven't
the
done a
film.
proper video on it. But the film Mishima: Life in Four Chapters.
Yeah.
And yeah, he had all these philosophical ideas in his head, and he was like he needed to unite the pen and the sword. It's like
Right.
he felt like he wasn't living his values, and then he did.
Hmm.
And that's a film that got me emotional, at the
Hmm.
climax when he committed seppuku. Um,
Yeah. He was true to his word.
yeah, I haven't cried like that in a long time.
Wow.
Usually the kind of films that get me, it's like Old Yeller or something.
Sure.
But yeah, it was
Shrek for me.
uh, yeah. There's films that definitely get the emotions going. But I was surprised with that. It's like an upswelling of
Hmm.
emotion, and it's interesting him because obviously he's from Japan, and as far as I know, he never really entertained any Christian worldview. Um,
Mm.
but I think he's someone who still has a lot of admirable philosophy and qualities that,
Yeah.
as if you are a man of Western faith, I don't think you should be afraid of someone like Mishima studying his life and his words. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with everything he said,
Yeah.
or
Or adopt the practices or something.
yeah, it's not like I'm saying, hey, go cut your go try to take over the government and
Yeah.
cut yourself open.
Incite a coup and then kill yourself.
Yeah, but you can still see the beauty and purpose in his actions and in his life. So
100%.
I think
You can
that's
learn things anywhere. Never, that's why, like I said earlier at the beginning of the podcast, never throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what people do when they like are like, no, Christianity correct, pagan mythology, complete fairy tales, lies, deception. It's like, who the fuck are you to say that? What makes you so sure?
and I think that fear mongering, like you said in the beginning,
Hmm.
it actually drives people the other way. When I think about like the stereotypical evangelical type moms in the 80s 90s,
Yeah.
that kind of puritanesque crackdown drives especially rebellious youth. I mean, the youth are always going to be rebellious. That's just That's biology, that's psychology, that's culture.
It's nature, yeah.
Um, but when you crack down so hard and you make these things the scary, unknown, forbidden, it makes it more tempting. It
I
is.
want to
It's like
go.
the big
Yeah.
red button that says "Don't
Yes.
push." It's like I want to push the
I
freaking
gotta
button.
push that button. Yeah.
So I
Exactly.
think you have to be real careful with whatever you believe in and how you teach people things.
Yeah.
It's like you can't just shut down, say all that other stuff's evil. Don't touch it. Don't look at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to destroy your mind. Blah blah blah. You have to
Yeah.
kind of guide people through interactions with that and see some value. You've
I
got to
will
come about
say
it.
I think that the like I can almost attribute all of like how well I turned out my life for better or worse to my parents. I had incredible parents. My mom's still alive, so I have incredible parents. But like my dad was so good about teaching things and then not like enforcing them dogmatically. Like I said, I always knew about Jesus growing up my whole life. I always knew about God and how I could pray to him and like whenever I need him, he's there for me and that kind of thing. I was never ever afraid of God or religion. I never felt ashamed of anything. I never felt bad about anything. Like it was only positive reinforcement um, as far as religion goes, or anything. If I did bad on a test or something, I was never like I was going to be punished. I had friends that would be punished if they got bad grades, and my dad would just be like, "What's going on here? Like, what do we need to fix? Like, what do we need? Do you need a tutor? Like, what do we need to do here?" I like, and because of that, I'm like not trying to just like glaze my parents, but like I think that they did a very great job of just like the discipline was very much like it was like because I revered and respected my parents so much that like when they told me that they were disappointed in something that I did, that fucking ruined me. That hit home. Like I never wanted to do. There was this one time, like my dad was so angry with me. I'd never seen him so angry. I don't want to say what I did, but I just don't want it out on the internet. But he was so disappointed in me that like for days later, I could see how upset he was. And dude, I would go to bed crying because of how upset I made my dad. And like it was one of those things where it was like, I will never do that again. He doesn't need to hit me. He doesn't need to ground me. He doesn't need to take my phone away from me. I will never do that again because I respect and love him and I want to do right by him. I think that that's how people need to understand God operates. God does not like want to punish you. He does not want to take your phone away from you. He doesn't want to take good things away from your life. He truly just like loves you and wants to have a relationship with you and he wants you to like actually feel bad when you do wrong by him. And I think that that's kind of the way that like I have begun to understand my relationship with God. And that's why it's hard for me to understand these people who are coming from like a very dogmatic approach. But I think that that's because of my upbringing, because I experienced that kind of fatherly love throughout my life. So it was a little bit easier for me. It was just like, I wasn't afraid.
It's very unfortunate that so many people are not um, raised in households with good parental figures.
Yeah. And love too. Like my parents
It's
loved the hell out of me. And so that's like, that's unchangeable. Like you can't give that to a kid once they didn't have it growing up.
right, right. Yeah, it's definitely something that you have to learn from other people who didn't have the same
Totally.
kind of wonderful upbringing. Not that,
Yeah.
at least my parents, they were excellent, but not everything was always perfect.
Of
Nobody's
course.
perfect, but
Of course.
by and large, they loved me, cared for me, wanted the best for me.
Hmm.
And a
And
lot of
you
kids
did.
don't get that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it's an indictment of society on a larger scale, but it's just sad that so many people are not receiving the kind of love and
Yeah.
support that.
And because of how much I think it matters and shapes who you are as a person, like to get a little bit Platonic, when Plato's talking about like the republic and the upbringing of the people, like the way that kids are raised is very important. And I think that that's one thing that we can take away from that, is that like the most important thing that we can do, like I said, is love your neighbors as yourself and like bring people up and help others. The people who need our help the most in life are the children, because like it's when you're I don't even need to explain the fact that when you're a young kid and life is very formative, like it's very important that you know what I mean, we know it's the most important thing. And I think that that's like where we need to start looking, is like, what are we doing with kids in our society? How are we treating them? Because that's basically a good prediction of how the world's going to look in the next 20 years.
Yeah, it's a little scary. Well,
It's fucking terrifying. I mean,
it's scary
yeah,
with a silver lining though,
totally.
because when I look at the average kid, and especially with all the technology and all that, it's scary.
Hmm.
It's these, but for those of us who are going to take the step to raise our children right, the
Hmm.
future belongs to them.
Yes.
It's sad that a lot of kids are not going to be raised well, but if
Yeah.
you raise your kid well, your kid's gonna be comparatively pretty good. I mean, that's how it is even now for our cohort. It's like if you
Yeah.
take care of your body and health, even to like a basic degree, you're already
Basic
doing
levels.
better than a huge portion of the population. Like the bar
Yeah.
has never been, and it's sad the bar's so low, but the bar
Yeah.
has never been lower, and it's never
It's
been
never been
easier
lower.
to pass the average person by.
Yes. Because that's the thing, is like at the end of the day, all you have to do is not neglect and not mistreat. If you avoid those two things, you're probably pretty set. You can also do the like loving and nurturing thing, and like in my case, like I said, like my dad wanted to like play sports with us and hang out and like do stuff with us. Like he wanted to like be a friend to us, and because of that, like we respected him more. It was like I want to come to my dad with my problems. I think that kids don't really have that a lot of times, or it's like there's ways that you can raise the bar, but like you said, it's so low that at the very least, if you don't neglect your kids or mistreat them, like they're gonna be pretty well-rounded individuals. We're very resilient creatures, humans. We will figure shit out. We overcome adversity all the time. It's just like having good parents is just like a 10 XP on all attributes.
Yeah, yeah, no, it definitely is. It's what do they call it in the military when what's the term I'm thinking of? Force multiplier.
Yeah,
It's
force
like
multiplier.
I think I might. It's been a while, so any veterans out there, feel free to correct me.
We apologize.
But that like weapon systems, when you combine like infantry and armor or something,
Hmm.
they don't just add to each other; they complement each other in such a way that
Exponentially.
yeah, their the sum is greater than the total is greater than the sum of their parts.
Yeah,
Did I
no,
say
no, no.
that
I
phrase
think
right?
I think that that's correct. Yeah,
But yeah, no,
that
having
makes sense.
having great parents is yeah, it's a force multiplier if you're on the right path. So
Yeah,
um, grateful.
and I was gonna say that the sort of like interests and whatnot too. Like you became the person that you've become because like you mentioned your dad. You said he was a professor. He's a
Yeah, he is a professor, film,
film
creative
professor.
writing.
And so he was able to teach you all of the things that he knows, and because you respect your father, like that grew into a sort of a passion for you, and now you love those things too, and you have grown into a person who is able to take those passions and interests and create a blooming career out of it. You know what I mean? Like where would you have what would you be doing if you didn't have if say your dad was still a film professor but you didn't respect him at all because he wasn't a great father? What would you have how would that have looked in your life? How would that have reflected, you
Yeah,
know?
it's it is scary to think if I didn't have these influences in my life where
Yeah.
I don't think it would have taken much for me to be a lot less than I am. Um,
Sure, I understand
I
that.
have a my own set of bad tendencies, whatever.
Hmm.
So yeah, I am very grateful. When you look at that Excalibur poster,
Yeah.
I mean, he was showing me that when I was pretty young, and I got that love of myth and history
Yeah.
in film and everything from him, and also, the physical discipline aspect, the compete, all of that. It's
Right.
kind of accumulated into the person I am now, and he still helps me to this day with some of my ideas and concepts that I talk about in my
Totally.
stuff. If I have a question or want to talk about an idea before I write a script, I'll happily call him and discuss. And it's great to have that support. And I'm sorry to hear about your father
That's
passing
okay.
early, but I know he would have done the same for you. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and it's
No,
just
that's
great
and
to have that support. And
it is. That's really beautiful to hear because like honestly, the one thing that I just like I think about the most in regards to my dad is just how badly I want to be able to just talk to him about the things that are going on in my life. Like I mentioned, like he was always somebody that I came to for help, um, and just not being able to go to him for help anymore is has been something that's helped me grow. But it's also like I said, it was because he was always there and able to help me. I was like afraid of asking for help from other people because I didn't want to get bad advice. I was like, my dad always gave me great advice. I'm a little hesitant to get advice from other people. But yeah, and that's the thing is like it's great that you have your father, and it's great that I had my dad when I did. But now that I don't anymore, I know that there are other mentors out there that I can like reach out to and ask for help. And I think that that's like that's kind of another part of what we were talking about earlier about taking action and interacting with the world around us is like you're gonna grow by finding those people.
exactly, exactly. And there are some things that when you talk about rebellion against parents or whatever that you do have to learn on your own. I especially with my dad and my mom too. There's so many things, especially in my teen years, they said that I'm like now it kind of comes around. I'm like, okay, yeah, they were right.
Oh, I know, I
but
know,
I
yeah,
wasn't. I had to find that out for myself through
of course,
experience. There's
wisdom.
and then talking a little bit about kind of myth going through the belly of the beast, that heroic journey.
Hmm.
Um, a film I really, really like, one of my favorites, Blue Velvet, David Lynch, who's
I don't know if I've seen
one
that.
of
I haven't seen that.
my favorite director by far. But it kind of is this journey of this young man who's goes into kind of a dark underworld in his little small town, and he's tempted by it, and he's a good person. He cares about the people he's trying to help, a few ladies in this case, but he's also tempted by the kind of just uncovering this darkness and the more unsavory aspects, and he kind of has to go that journey alone. Like if he listened to the authority figures, he wouldn't have gone on the journey.
Right.
Um, so yeah, there are some things you gotta. It's nice to be able to you gotta jump out of the nest on some things, but it's nice
Yeah.
to know
It's
that
it,
if
it,
you
it, it
fall and break your wings, your parents would
yes.
scoop you back up.
They create an environment of controlled chaos because it's like they let like uh bring up my dad again. One of the things that my dad always did for us when we were kids, like I grew up skateboarding, and my dad would take us to skate spots. And like in the world of skateboarding, you can go to parks and stuff and that's fun, but like what you really need to do in order to get the footage that you want or to like really hit cool spots, you got to break and enter sometimes. You got to trespass. And so like you got to jump a fence to a school when there's no kids there and like go skate a handrail. Like it's unavoidable. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like did my dad know that we were breaking the law? Like, yeah. But
Yeah.
but he was doing it in a controlled way where it was like I'm there for you guys. If you need me to pick you up, I will be there to pick you up. If you want, like, I don't want you guys to be doing something too unsafe. So he's like overseeing it, but he's allowing the like bad stuff to happen in a way that's like even skateboarding. Like Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time. It's like let your kids skateboard because it's fucking dangerous and they're gonna hurt themselves. Like I snapped my arm skateboarding. It was the worst injury I ever had. But it's like if I didn't have that, then I wouldn't have learned about physical injuries, or there's life lessons. And it's one of those things like, yeah, you got to let your kids out of the bubble every now and then. And I think that you have to nurture that the right amount. And I personally think that that's probably, we've been talking about parenting in this podcast so much, but I think that that is like one of the most important aspects of parenting, is finding that balance between like being the strict tyrant that's going to teach kids like actual morals and values, or the parent who's like way too friendly, way too cool. They're like smoking weed with you in the living room, and it's like, okay, this is a little strange that their mom is smoking with it. Like, she's super cool. It's like, yeah, she's a super cool mom, but it's like, what is she teaching you? You know what I mean? And I think striking that balance as a parent is so important. And that's one of the things that my friends always talk about to this day. They're like, that was so cool that one time that the cops came and we got in trouble. I called my dad one time and I was like, Dad, like we got busted, like where, and he's like, where are you? And I told him, and then he was like, do the police, he's like, do they know that I know that you're there? And I was like, no. And he's like, all right. And he shows up and he's all pissed. He's like, fuck. Like, it was an act, you know what I mean? Because it's like, he knew what we were doing. He knows that we do these kinds of things. But it's like, of course, he's going to protect us. He's going to control everything. Yeah, I think that that's like an important, you got to let your kids do some bad things, or you just need to go and do them on your own. But as a parent, it's like, be there to control it, catch them when they fall.
Yeah, it is that balance, and it's kind of what we were talking about in the beginning with these two different worldviews that have both contributed immensely to Western civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a little bit of balance and understanding that you can learn about things that maybe you shouldn't do through experience. And with
Yeah.
parents, it's like you said, it's like there's the parent that is totally permissible of anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then there's the helicopter mom who will frickin' wrap you in bubble wrap
Yeah.
and sit
Well,
you on the couch.
I mean, like, I've seen both play out in my life with my friends so many times. The mom who sits on the couch with you and smokes weed with you and is just like totally permissible about everything. Those kids don't turn out very well. They usually end up dropping out of high school and then like have developing a drug addiction, or like getting pregnant before they're 18 or something like that. Whereas the kids who have helicopter parents and they always got straight A's because if they didn't, they were going to be punished. As soon as they get to college and they don't have any parental control anymore, they fucking spiral, and they can end up ruining their lives because they were never, you know, um, they were never familiar with these things that they're now being introduced to, like recreational drugs and alcohol. That they end up just spiraling out of control because they've never, yeah, they were never familiar with it. So it's like that balance is everything. That you got to have
Yeah,
that chaos.
yeah, and it's hard. I mean, easier said than done, but oh yeah, I think good parents, that's kind of the balance
Hmm.
that you strike. But yeah, man,
It's tough.
an hour passes by quick.
That really does. Look at that.
um, Man, it's been a great talk. Kind of funny all the directions we've taken. It's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
starting talking about faith, and then got parenthood and film and our experiences growing up. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, this is definitely something that like I kind of didn't expect. I mean, like, I knew that just being friends and like being in communication with you on a pretty regular basis, I was kind of curious. I was like, I wonder like what we're gonna go into. But it's funny when you get put in these kind of like there's a little bit more pressure because it's like other people are gonna see the conversation. You wonder how the conversation's gonna go. But then it's once you're talking to your friend, it's just kind of like everything just flows.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
No,
been great.
it's been awesome. There was few ideas that I didn't get to cover, but I think we can save those because naturally we just went in a completely natural
Yeah,
direction, and I think that's better than having a set structure of
totally.
bullet points. I think it's
Yeah.
much more
Or we could stop
fruitful.
right now and then we could just be like, so anyways, what do you think about?
uh, I
Yeah,
think we've had a great productive chat. Um,
totally. There will be a part two.
There will be many, many parts.
Hmm.
And I want to frequently bring you on, and of course, other people I want to bring
Yeah.
on. And it's funny talking about experience and all this. Starting a journey. It's like when I first started posting,
Hmm.
just about 3 years ago, senior year of college.
Yeah.
Um, I had no idea I'd be sitting here talking with a friend I met through content creation. I
Yeah.
I was posting silly little shorts or just talking about my interests while finishing up school. Um, and it's just, but if I hadn't started there, if I hadn't started putting in the time then, oh well, I wouldn't be here now. You don't,
Yep.
you look at the leaves of the tree, you have to start with the seed, the roots.
Absolutely.
So it's just awesome, and I think this is an opportunity for us. Um, it'll be my first one uploaded to YouTube. I don't have a ton of YouTube subscribers yet, but
Hmm. We will
this
get there. We
is
will spread the
this
word
is
like crazy.
building us up, and I can't wait to see where we are a year from now.
100%. And just to one up you really quickly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. You and maybe a couple other creators were the people that I would watch. I would watch your guys' videos regularly and just be like, ah, like I want to do this. I can do this. Like I have these guys are just like me. They have ideas just like me. They think just like me. And for the longest time, I didn't take action. And then when I finally just decided, like, you know what? What do I have to lose? I don't even know how long it was before the people that I had revered and were constantly like entertained by, yourself included, started actually liking my videos and reaching out to me and stuff. And it's like it happens quickly. I think that is kind of, to circle back to what we were talking about action earlier, like when you put yourself in the arena, the other people who are also in the arena, they're right there.
Yeah.
They're gonna recognize you and notice you right away. It was one of those things that I never expected, and I am so grateful constantly to be friends with you and all of the other cool people that we've met in the space. People that I'm sure will be on this podcast very soon. Um, and I just think it's really been cool. Like when I take a step back and just see this now, like if me from uh, a year and a half ago, before I ever started posting, were to see me now on a podcast with you, you'd be like, that's the fucking guy from TikTok. That's crazy. What am I doing on a podcast with him? So it's so cool to see how life unfolds. It's very magical.
It is. It is. So I much appreciate you coming on. Um, it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah,
Felt like 20 minutes, and it's been an hour and 20 minutes.
I know. It's
Um,
crazy.
I hope some of my viewers have the attention span.
Oh, dude,
Coming
they'll be
coming from
fine.
TikTok, the 30 seconds. You can
Yeah,
put it on double speed.
we
But
accept that.
um, although I think we could go on for literally ever. I think
Yes.
an hour and 20 is a good stopping point. Um, but yeah, I just really appreciate you hopping in and getting this started, and our endeavors are just going to continue to grow, and I appreciate having you as a friend.
Uh, Feelings mutual, man. I'm very grateful to have you in my life. And we'll definitely do this again. This is gonna be great.
You got it. And now I just have to get off my lazy butt and edit the thing and post it.
Oh God, editing.
I want to
Oh
go
Lord.
celebrate a little bit. But first I'm gonna get it uploaded to YouTube. I'm not leaving this seat until then. So,
Okay, beautiful. Good to hear it.
all right. Well,
Awesome, man.
take care, my man.
You too, brother.
Peace.